Fill her up.
You're listening to the Gas Digital Network.
What do you want to do with your life? I want to talk. Hey, welcome to I Want to Talk. Today my guest is Adam Green, director Adam Green, actor, writer Adam Green, producer Adam Green, and a dear friend, Adam Green. And you'll hear all about our relationship and what have you soon. Adam's, let me see credits, and please jump in and give them to me. But, you know, well known for the Hatchet movies, the Hatchet franchise. If you've seen those movies, that's all Adam's creation, a childhood vision, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, 8 years old, and I think it shows when you watch the movies.
I don't think so. I think it reeks of that genuineness of things that scare you, that just always scare you. The first things that scare you, you know.
Yeah.
Also, Holliston, known by some, beloved by some, not known by enough. A sitcom that had 2 seasons, originally on FearNet.
Goes to show how well known the network was when one of the actors on the show does not know.
Yeah, I knew the word fear was in there. It was on, an online or internet.
It was a cable network, but because they called it FearNet, it sounds like a website. So we would always joke and call it fear.gov, fear.edu,
I thought it was fear.com or something, but I think
movie.
I think I wrote a short story called that once. Anyway, he did a movie called Frozen, which children everywhere love. No, the original Frozen.
The original.
Dare I say the original? Did you sue their asses for that?
No, you can't own a word.
You can't own a title. No, you can't. But interestingly, I really fucked up Universal and Van Helsing.
Really?
Yeah. This is just a little aside. I had a project called Van Helsing's Curse, Halloween rock orchestra concert, very visual event, and registering the name, we had plans on doing video and not movies story wise, but we covered all bases. And then suddenly we got a call from Universal when the Van Helsing movie came out, and they literally said, "Listen, you have the rights to." They couldn't get Van Helsing because I had Van Helsing's Curse for all the things that they had it for, even though it was a musical entity essentially. So they literally, lawyers said, "We need you to sign that over to us."
Oh, wow.
And I said, "How much?" And they go, "Oh, nothing. We'll just
take it.
We'll just take it." And I said, "Look, we're a musical project. Why don't you put one of our songs in the movie?" And Van Helsing's Curse was really cool because it was classical mixed with very dramatic.
It's I think it might be my favorite thing you've ever done.
Yeah,
it's the best version of Cry Little Sister that's ever been out.
So he said, "Give us a song on the soundtrack." No, sign it over to us. And I said, "I'm not signing it over to you." "Well, we're going to come after you with our lawyers."
Oh, God.
I said, "Well, go crazy."
Yeah.
And fortunately for them, the movie was a bomb.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the rights for any of the merch, any of those things. And I'm sure somebody lost his job. But anyway, I guess the variation on the name allowed me to, I don't know why they had such a problem calling it Van Helsing. Maybe just because of trademark and because they had all these other secured rights separately.
And I don't know how it works, but at this point, the name Van Helsing, wouldn't that be almost considered public domain?
I thought so.
Yeah.
It's a you can't, like Duran Duran. They could use the name Duran Duran. It was a name from Barbarella, the movie Barbarella.
Right.
You can't. I don't understand. But anyway, be that as it may, Frozen. If you have not seen it, one of the great thrillers. We wouldn't call it a horror movie.
No,
would you?
I call it a suspense thriller.
Suspense thriller. One of the great suspense thrillers. Indie filmmaker extraordinaire. He's done so many other things. Please tell him about all the Halloween movies, all the other films that you've done.
Yeah, on the feature side, there's Spiral and Chillerama and Ding Up the Marrow, which Ding Up the Marrow is now on Hulu, I guess. Most people won't watch anything unless it's on Netflix or Hulu. So now it's on Hulu, so you can watch it without stealing it. And
we're going to get into that too, by the way.
Oh, yeah. And then my company, Ariscope Pictures, we just celebrated our 20th 20th anniversary. And that all started by making a Halloween short just for fun, which became an annual thing. So 20 years of Halloween shorts. The 20th just came out, I guess, 10 days ago now. And if you've ever seen any of them, it really doesn't, I guess it doesn't matter. But the concept this year was that all the characters from the previous 19 years perform an intervention on me to stop making Halloween shorts. And so ambitious.
Fat chance.
I'm never going to stop. Yeah. But to get all of those people back and rebuild puppets and creatures and stuff from a 20-year period was no small feat. And you'll like this. I ended up having to stay awake for 4 straight days, which is a record even for me. I don't sleep often, but because those things have a shelf life. Like once Halloween passes, it's, maybe the next fall they'll be topical.
Yeah.
But we had to shoot
a pretty hard deadline on those.
Yeah. And we had to shoot this one. So normally we shoot July, August, and then you have a few weeks to edit it. But this one, because the cast was, I think, 26 people or something, we couldn't shoot. We didn't finish shooting until October 20th or something. So I had no other choice but to stay awake straight through. And I will never do it again. My days of these like stretches of not sleep, which you've been on me for years, because every time I see you, I look like I'm gonna die. Right now, I can tell like I look exhausted, and I slept last night. But yeah, I'm never doing that.
Well,
again.
I think you look like you, actually. I think you look fine, and you haven't hit that point yet where you get the. You're not that old that you get the. You look good, like that comment, which I'm getting all the time. I met Tony Danza, and Tony Danza says, "What are the 3 stages of life?" And I said, "I don't. What are they?" He says, "Youth, middle age, and you look good." and I realize that is the absolute truth. I mean, they can say you look great, you look amazing, but it's never like. You don't say that to anybody unless they're old.
Right.
So you're not there yet. So you're still like, whatever, middle-aged guy. But I mean, and plus you've got your Scary Sleepover series.
Yes.
Which is great. And by the way, where's that available for the average person?
Scary Sleepover, all this stuff is available on aeriescope.com and it's all free. So Scary Sleepover, we've done 2 seasons so far, and it's a show where different artists, celebrity friends of mine come over to the studio and have a slumber party with me in pajamas, just like little kids, eating junk food, playing. We do something different each time, a board game, or I think with yours it was Metal or Not Metal.
Metal or Not Metal, yes, that was great.
Your episode, though, is the opening 8 minutes. Now, they always start with, usually it's about 1 minute, where it's just a voiceover and me describing who the person is and how I know them. And with yours, it was the season finale, and I mean, our story is so incredible.
We're going to be telling that story again in a minute, by the way, because we'll get to that. I want to get scary. So I mean, just Scary Sleepover. You've had Slash has been on there. I've been on there. Who else? Give me some.
Kane Hodder, Sid Haig, Tony Todd, and it's what's incredible about it is because I am good friends with all these people. They open up in ways that they normally wouldn't. Slash's episode, a lot of comments have just been, no one's ever heard him speak that much. I mean, he's a pretty quiet, reserved, shy guy.
Yeah, he's a cool guy in the back, not in the background, but he's a guy who just sit there with a cigarette, playing his guitar, and just looking badass.
Yeah. And he was so talkative, and I don't know, it's something about that show, and I honestly, I think it's the whole lying on the floor like kids, and you forget the cameras are there and you just talk. And the point of the show is to find out what scares the people that scare you for a living, or at least are involved in the horror genre in some way or another. And the answers are never spiders or heights or something like that. Tony Todd's episode, he revealed that he had a brother that he never spoke of who was institutionalized, extremely deformed, and he was a very little kid when they were separated, and at a certain point he wanted to meet him, and his aunt, who was taking care of him, explained to him, that he doesn't look like you, it's going to be a little frightening. And
I hear Tony is this handsome, big, talented, he got everything.
And
this must be this guilt thing going on there.
he was so scared when he met his brother that he never went back. And even when they contacted him to say he's on his way out, do you want to come and say goodbye? He was still too scared to go. And I'm expecting this to have been years ago. And then he says that was 3 weeks ago. And
Woof.
we had to stop the cameras. And I said to him, "Are you sure do you want to put this out? Like, we don't need to put this out." And he'd always had a thing where he would, no matter what the conversation, he'd mention that he was an only child. Tony, do you want a soda? Yeah, as an only child, I love Coke, like whatever it was.
Right.
And then you could see where all that was coming from. But the show really, really is something special. And if we're going to continue doing it, because it's 50 hours a week of editing. And again, this is just something we did for free for the fans. So if we do a third season, we're going to do it with one of the streaming services or with somebody so we can actually have a budget.
And he's got a podcast for the last 5+ years.
5.5 years.
5.5 years called
The Movie Crypt.
The Movie Crypt. And it's recently changed. I don't know. How do people access it?
Same way as always.
Okay, so that doesn't change for people.
Yeah, we were with another network, and now we realized along the way the network wasn't doing anything for us. We recorded our place. We just do it independently for now. And it's on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you listen to podcasts.
So within the horror community, I'm trying to find the right term to describe your place in there. You know what I mean? Because there's the father, you got Romero, he was whatever, the father of the zombie, everybody, but you're like an ambassador. No, I mean, because you're beloved in the community and people respect you and admire you as an artist, but also they know at your core, you're a fan. And it shows in all the work you do, your love for the genre. So they connect with you like you're one of them. You're one of the horror community, one of the horror fans. And at the same time, you're making content that they love. So you have a really unique place. And I do a lot of convention appearances, and so many of your people come to see me, visit me, get a house because I carry a Holliston picture. It's in my pile, do you have a Holliston picture? So we got one. And, but whatever. But you're beloved in that community. But our relationship, and there's many things I want to speak to you about today. I want to talk to you about independent filmmaking and, dealing with, and we're not going to go there right just yet, but I'm just saying we're going to get there, dealing with the downloading thing, the people just taking the content for free and trying to, and I want to discuss that. And if you think that's been discussed, it hasn't. So, I mean, and it bears discussion. I want to talk to you about being an independent filmmaker and making, and I say making a living. I'm going to put it in quotation marks because I know you say there's a struggle here, but that's one of the things I want to talk to you about. Not everybody gets the golden ticket. And yet there are other paths to doing what you're passionate about, doing what you love, and you've sort of figured it out. And it's a lot of work, but you're also, there's one thing you do. You make scary movies and broadcasts and TV shows, and you have fun doing it, and you're living your. I mean, we discussed this, and we'll get into it. But your realization that day, you told me where you realized, hey, I'm living my dream here. It's not exactly as I pictured it, but at the end of the day, look at all the shit I've done and I am doing. So I want to talk about that. But I think we gotta, this story's been told many, many times on DVDs and in public forums about how we came to be friends and our relationship. There's still many people who don't know it. And one thing it hasn't been done is told with you and me sitting here and going, so this happened to me, and this is what happened to him. And while that was happening to him, this was happening to me. So we're going to go back and forth on this one because it is an interesting story. And it all starts with an email. Now, for me, so we're gonna go back.
Yes.
What the email says. But for me, I've had the same email address and the same cell phone number for decades. Now, my peers, who shall remain nameless, are constantly changing their phone numbers and changing their email addresses because fans got it. And I say to them, you do know there's a block feature. right? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, and caller ID. So you don't have to answer the phone when you see a number come up you don't recognize, and then sit there screaming at the fan going, leave me, this is my private number. Like, you just don't answer, ignore, and then you go and block. And that's the end of that number. And this way you keep your phone number, because phone numbers are important. People need to access you.
The email's the tough one, though, because my issue with it, and why what happens is there's a crew list on every production, and they're not supposed to list the actors or the director's information. It does not need to be out there for everybody. But somewhere along the line, there'll be one crew list where, oops, sorry, we printed your info. And then someone on that crew then knows a nephew or somebody who's trying to be a screenwriter. They slip my email address, and if it doesn't get bounced back, then they know that you got it.
Well, actually, there may be a difference before a director, specifically for a director. Adam, my son, Cody's a director writer, and Adam is a mentor to him. He's worked with Cody, and that'll probably come up in conversation in a little bit. But one of the first things you told Cody when he moved out to LA, whatever you do not tell people you're a director.
Yes.
Like when you walk into a club or you walk into a restaurant or anything, don't say, oh, I'm a director. And Cody says, well, I haven't done anything really yet. It doesn't matter. You said doesn't matter, because everybody, he could do something for me. I guess rock stars can't really do anything, to help your career.
Other musicians must think you can do. I mean, my band's album came out last year. I have a record label, and our album came out, and all of a sudden, all these bands are contacting me thinking I can do something for them. I'm like, what do you want? What do you think I can do?
Yeah,
and it's more about getting their music to somebody else.
Or a gig or whatever. So when I get an email, and I've had the same email address, it's AOL.com, ironically. It's at the point now where I'm being ironic, just pointing that out. Okay, so I get it. So anyway, but I see, if I don't recognize the name, spam. It goes to the spam folder. Block them. That's it. And I get an email from, I don't recognize the name, and I'm just about to spam it or whatever, junk it, throw it away, block it. But the subject, Matt, catches my eye. Hello again. And I said, hello again. Have I met this person? I don't want to spam somebody. The worst thing is when I've had Rudy Sarzo like, dude, why'd you block me? Like, I said, I blocked you. And of course
it would be Rudy, the nicest
guy in the world, and one of my dear friend. I just didn't recognize. It was the first time he emailed me out of nowhere. I was like, aha, spam that guy, and he's just blocked, and so I said, hello again. I'm going, oh my God, what is that? So now, I don't know about you, and I'm talking to the audience right now, or you, Adam, but when I go to open a suspicious package.
Oh, it's terrifying.
I do it like it's got possibly has some poison dust or a bomb in there. Yep. I reach my finger way out and I kind of turn away, so if I don't actually see it completely,
because once you've seen it, you can't unsee it.
You can't unsee it. Yeah. So I go and I tap open. And I'm like, I swear, one eye closed. I'm slid back in my desk chair. I'm going, just in case. I'm gonna, and the letter, it's from Adam Green, who I don't know, but it says this.
The letter, okay.
Well, it says that you got my email from a mutual friend.
Yes, who wasn't really a mutual friend. It was one of the makeup effects artists who was working on Hatchet. His boss, John Beekler, was working on, I think it was Van Helsing.
We were working. There was some point we knew each other. So when I saw you dropped his name, I said, okay, he gave you the email address. Okay, well, I know him. So all right, let me continue to read.
So I had told the first part of the story, which we're about to get to, at the effects shop while we were making Hatchet. And then when Hatchet was done and it was going to premiere at Tribeca, Rob Pendergraft, the shop foreman, said, there's somebody you need to tell about this. And I'm like, who? He's like, I lifted Dee Snider's email address off of John's computer. And I'm like, I can't do that.
Oh, shit.
And he's like, the worst thing that happens is you don't hear back from him. He's like, but you got to tell him that you did it after all of this stuff. I know this is a weird way to tell the story starting.
We're backing into it.
But, and so I did. And it was a short email, which for me is rare. I can't send a short text. Like someone asked me what time it is, you get 10 pages
Oh, my
back.
God. How do you text so much?
I don't know. I can't stop it. It's a mental illness. So I just wrote a very quick thing. Like, we met here, here, and here. I'm not sure if you remember me, but I wanted you to know I did it. And I made my movie after all these years, and it's premiering at Tribeca. Thank you for being an inspiration.
Wait a minute, but you give me the short version because the story is incredible. Because he goes, we met on these occasions, but he starts telling me the story of his personal journey as a writer-director and his struggle. And it was a difficult one. He lived in Massachusetts.
Yep.
You're not really from Holliston, are you?
I am. Yeah.
The name of the show is Holliston.
Yes.
So Holliston, Massachusetts, a little town. And you tell me that, his dream is to make movies and make TV shows. And along the way of his journey, he had some major falls, major stumbles. And so was it the first fall when you wrote me the letter?
No.
Or was that pre-fall?
Let's at the very beginning of all of this, when I was 8 years old, because everything was when I was 8. That was when I came up with Victor Crowley, the killer from the Hatchet movies, at summer camp. But my grandmother had said to me, "What do you want for your birthday?" And I wanted Battle Armor He-Man or whatever. And she said, "No, you should be listening to music." And I had a Fisher Price.
Grandma said you should be listening to music.
Gertrude. Yes, I had a Fisher Price record player, and I think I had Hotter Than Hell, Led Zeppelin 4, and Boston. I think their first record, because my brother had handed them down to me.
I thought they just issued that when you lived in Massachusetts, the Boston record.
Well, they give you the hat and they tell you the Yankees suck, and that's it. But I didn't know what I wanted, and there on MTV was "We're Not Going to Take It." And I said, get me those guys. And she's like, "Those aren't guys." And she's like, "Pick something else, anything else."
Russian shot putters.
And thankfully she got me, she didn't get me "Stay Hungry." She got me "You Can't Stop Rock and Roll."
Well, look, the cover looked less threatening. "You Can't Stop Rock and Roll" only had the TS logo, and "Stay Hungry" had me crouched down with a bloody bone in my hand.
My dad, at one point, I remember him standing in my bedroom, and you've seen the edit suite at Aeriescope. That is my childhood bedroom. I saved all the posters, everything, and it's all still up. But I remember my dad. Now, I had, every time Satan was on the cover of the National Enquirer or whatever, "Satan Escapes from Hell," "Satan Spotted," and whatever, I'd cut it out and stick it on my ceiling. They didn't care about that one bit. My dad's concern was, what is it about men in leather and makeup that you need to cover your bedroom walls with this? He's like, we would accept you no matter what. My first cousin was
a phys ed teacher, right?
Yes, football coach, the antithesis of me.
Yeah, Dad is like big, jacked. Even as an older dude, he's like, no offense, dude, but you must have been a major disappointment.
It was a huge disappointment. My dad was a football coach. My brother was a football player, bench pressing 400 pounds. I'm in fucking Fiddler on the Roof or whatever the fuck I was in. And my dad would have to come to the plays and act like and afterwards my mom would be like, "Tell him he did a good job as Kanicki, Richard." My dad would be like, "Good job."
He's very proud of him now.
Yes,
I know that.
He is
very proud of him. He just didn't get it.
No.
Like my dad didn't get it. You know, it was like, it's not, what is this?
Yes.
It just doesn't seem like normal.
And I couldn't catch a ball, but I could impersonate anybody at the dinner table. And that was how I got attention, because it was always about my brother. Also too, I had it pretty easy compared to my brother. My brother had a speech impediment. He had terrible skin. He had no friends growing up. Like, I was very lucky. I grew up with a great group of kids. They're still my best friends to this day. And I loved my hometown. I named the TV show after it. My brother is always like, he hates that town. He hates those people. And like, we just had such a different childhood. But my everything was about Eric all the time at the dinner table. And the only way I could get attention was by making people laugh. So I would impersonate my teachers and I would just tell jokes. And my mother and my brother would be laughing until they were choking. And then my father would eventually, every night, slam his fist down and he'd say, "Stop laughing, you're encouraging him." And when my very first movie premiered, Coffee and Donuts, became Holliston, I could hear my father laughing louder than anybody in that theater. And I went and I kneeled down next to him and I said, "Stop laughing, Dad, you're encouraging me." And from that moment forward, he's been my biggest fan and supporter. And he
got it.
He didn't get it.
When you transmitted it to him somehow in a format that he could understand, not you at the kitchen table, but he's used to sitting and watching TV or watching a movie.
Yeah.
My dad was a lot that way too. I mean, I don't think my dad was truly proud of me. He didn't get rock and roll. But when he saw Strangeland, as bizarre as it was, he loved movies. The idea of going to a movie theater, albeit how short the run was, to walk in a theater and buy a ticket and sit in a movie and see his son on the screen, he connected with that.
So even the music videos at that point, we're not going to take it. Was so cinematic.
Yeah, but he was still didn't get it. And when I was on Broadway, oh my God, they were proud.
Yeah.
Broadway, I mean, they like theater, and going to theater and seeing my name on the marquee and going into a Broadway theater and seeing their son on the stage, dancing and singing and doing whatever I had to do in Rock of Ages. But that connected with him. So you connected with your dad on that level.
Yes.
So you're that kid. So 8 years old, you get the You Can't Stop Rock and Roll album. Now you've got the Curse.
Yeah.
You're a Twisted Sister fan.
Yeah, because my thing, even with movies, like when I saw E.T., that was the movie that made me want to be a filmmaker, and I knew it was fake, and E.T. didn't even look real, but yet I was crying uncontrollably at the end, and I needed to know how they did it, from the music to the words to I would just analyze things. And so it was the same thing with Twisted Sister, where I didn't just read the lyrics or memorize them so I could sing along. I wanted to know what you meant, and then I wanted to know why and who you were and what your story was. And back then, really all we had was Circus Magazine, Hit Parader, but a lot of that stuff was in there. And when you would read about the struggle and how it took so long for something so obvious, and yet everyone's passing, everyone's turning you guys down, and you didn't stop. And I just really took that to heart. And so in fourth grade, we had to do a report on the most influential person in our life. And everyone did, their mom, their dad, or their grandfather who was a veteran or something. And my mother, all right, so another reason why my dad was concerned with me growing up is that I played with, I shouldn't say played with, played with stuffed animals until I was, 14 or something. But it was because I did shows and I was doing voices and they were all characters. Recently, my parents moved and we found this big trash bag filled with all the stuffed animals. I somehow, when I was a kid and I put them all away for good, I labeled each one with a book, so everything's numbered. And in the book, it's their entire story, what their name was, their relationship with the other stuffed animals, what they're like, so I'd never forget, I guess. And you can literally read this, it's a whole universe of stuffed animals, and they're all related and stuff.
In analysis, people, just like these, when you see, if you've got kids or whatever, and you're seeing these kind of behaviors, this is the birth of creativity and inventiveness. And, I remember just an aside, but, oh God, I'm trying to remember who directed Iron Man. And
Jon Favreau.
Jon Favreau was on the Stern Show, and he was talking about playing Dungeons and Dragons. And of course, Howard mocked ruthlessly. And Favreau said, if you like what I do, this is why I do what I do.
Yes.
Imagination-driven games. So if you're mocking this, so many people, from Vin Diesel to Jon Favreau to so many people have played these kind of imagination games, played with dolls, played with this stuff. It's what builds your creativity. So don't poo-poo it so quickly. And if you see it in your family, it doesn't mean there's anything really wrong. Okay, there's a little wrong.
No.
Well, as wrong for creative people tend to be a little eccentric and weird and don't sleep for 4 days editing their project and nearly kill themselves. So,
instead of just having a photo of you, my mother helped me make this doll. You've seen?
I've seen the doll.
We made a doll, and I stood up with that doll, and I said, Dee Snider is the most important person in my life. And the teacher immediately, Mrs. Sheriff, she started as a substitute, and then I think the teacher died or something. I don't know what happened, but she ended up taking over. And she immediately says, sit down. And I'm like, I didn't even get started yet. And she's like, you're trying to make a joke out of this. Sit down. And I said, can I finish? I had a whole report ready to go. And so I launched into my report about how you didn't drink and you didn't do drugs, even though that whole scene was all about the excess. That's what it was about, was the drugs and the sex and I'm quoting songs and that you need to stand up for yourself and nobody's going to tell you no and that you can do what you set your mind to. And anyway, by the time I was done with the report, I got my first and last A+. And I was so proud of that A+, because I mean that thing was from the heart, like finally, because I wasn't really that interested in school.
A hard-fought A+. Thank you, Mrs. Sheriff.
But I knew what I was gonna do. And it didn't involve algebra and all this other shit. I didn't need it, and I understand why you need to take all those classes and stuff. And I did pretty well in school. But I only did it for my parents' sake. They were like, for our sake, go to college, get good grades, and then do what you're going to do.
But our first passing meeting, whatever, is that the Widowmaker show with the letter?
Yes.
With a letter.
So 1995, I'm now in film school, and I hear that Widowmaker's playing in Providence, Rhode Island. I'm at Hofstra on Long Island.
A post-Twisted Sister band, if you don't know, ill-fated, but we put out a couple of pretty solid records.
Yes.
Anyway.
And I'm like, I got to go to this thing. And I drove all the way there from Hofstra, and I hand wrote a letter just saying who I am. I'm in film school, but this is because of you. So thank you. And I got there really early because it was general admission. I pressed myself against the glass so I'd be the first one in, thinking if I throw this letter onto the stage, somebody will pick it up and maybe they'll give it to you. And I didn't expect to ever hear back or anything. I just wanted to know that you got it. And in the reflection of the glass, I see this mop of long blonde hair walking by behind me, and I turn around and it's you. And I'd never met a famous person before, let alone my idol. And I walked up, and the words weren't really coming out. You tried to take the letter, and I wasn't letting go. Like it was so pathetic. And but you said first you said you want me to sign something. And I gave you my ticket stub, and you wrote, I still want to rock Dee Snider. And this shit's all framed in my office still to this day. And then you said, all right, I'll read your letter, enjoy the show, and you walked away. And
this is not as self-serving as you think it is. This is inspirational. So stand.
No, it really is.
It gets there. So I get the letter.
But, okay, so the show starts, and it was like you were just playing for me. And I'm sure if you've ever seen this man perform, everyone in the audience thinks that, because you're one of the few who makes eye contact with every single person in that audience. Most people, I do it too. You look in between people, you look right slightly over their heads or whatever. You're just like, fuck you, you're going to have a good time. And if you're not, I'm going to keep looking at you until you do. And at the end of the show, halfway through the show, you did 3 Twisted Sister songs. And when you did I Want to Rock, you made sure that you got right down where I was, and so I could yell rock into the microphone. And then at the very end, you said, before we go, I want to dedicate the last song to my friend Adam here. And that's when I realized you had read the letter before you went on.
I did.
And it was so, I was by myself at this, because no offense, nobody would go with me. And
well, you, on top of everything else, you went from Long Island to, where was
Providence.
it? Providence, Rhode Island.
I think it was about a 4-hour drive.
Yeah. So you were committed.
I was. And you dedicated the last song, which was the cover of I'm a Wild One. And then I thought that was it. And so I'm telling everybody the story, and it was, a cool story, but nobody cared. If it had been Bono, and they all would have been like, oh, that's great, but just nobody cared. And then 3 months later, my mother calls me at school, and she says, you got a letter here, because I used my home address, not my school address, as the return address. And she said, you got a letter from Dee Snider. Do you want me to open it? And I was like, yes, open it. And she read me the letter. And the letter said, in so many words, and again, this stuff is all online. You can read the letter. It says, I touched your life, now you touched mine. I've always looked at myself as a big brother to my fans and SMFs. And I'm glad that you could see through the makeup and the bullshit and hear what I was trying to say. Keep going, and someday I will see you on the red carpet of some bigwig Hollywood premiere.
Right. As he told me in a letter, I mean, I get you get fan letters, and they're they just basically, I'm your number one fan, and blah 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 blah, and that's great and appreciated. But then you get occasionally from someone who's really paying attention. I say I was screaming in the night, and sometimes people heard what I was saying, and you were taking real inspiration from my lyrics, which I was trying to inspire people. I was trying to lift people up. I wasn't singing about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. They struck a note with you. You told me in the letter. Did you tell me in the letter about the school report and all that stuff?
Yes.
Okay. So you told me all that. So and when I get a letter like that, I take the time to write back. I usually type. I'm a typer, but I type it myself. And so I wrote back to him and I said that. I said, I was trying to be encouraging, saying, one day I'll see you on the red carpet, some big premiere. You can do it, kind of thing. You can do it. And I sent him the letter. And, that was the end of it.
Well,
wasn't the end of it.
That letter, especially because it was right before I graduated. It was almost like when I got You Can't Stop Rockin'. It was a whole new wave of inspiration now. Like, it seemed like it was possible. And so I got out of school, and I got a job making terrible cable commercials. Like when you're watching TV late at night and that local ad comes on, it's like just graphics everywhere and a family waving in front of their storefront. That's what I was doing. But I could borrow the equipment at night and make my own stuff, which was my real goal working there. And so I made a short film, the first Halloween short, called Columbus Day Weekend, where Jason and Michael Myers stalked the same campsite by mistake, and then they're gay for each other. And it was just to show...
Oh, yeah. Adam has a wicked sense of humor and comedy. It's all through his horrors are also filled with comedy.
Yes. And it was just a show at a party. I didn't think anything was going to come of it. But all of a sudden it starts getting passed around, and it was a VHS copy. And I got an email from a guy who said, I work at a talent agency called UDA. It's a big agency, and there's a bunch of agents here laughing at your short film. You should really come out here and meet with them. Now,
here being
LA. And
you're living in
Boston.
Okay.
And now I had no money, and so it took me a while to save up. I didn't even have a credit card, and at the time, and I flew out here.
So you see your opportunity, your chance.
Yes, I fly out here, and I've been telling people for months I'm going out there. I'm meeting with UDA. Turns out it's called UTA. It's United Talent Agency, not UDA, which I was calling it for months. And I got there, and nobody wanted to talk to me because it had been too long. When you have something that people are interested in, if you can't jump, and that's why the advice, if you really want to do this, you have to come to LA or maybe New York. But just because you can shoot something anywhere or write something anywhere doesn't mean you can be where it's happening. And you have to be ready to take those meetings and jump on those opportunities when they happen.
It's called heat.
Yes.
Okay, it's called heat. And when people are reacting, you have heat. And when a lot of people are reacting, you're really got heat. And what he experienced is something my own son Cody, who's getting ready to is going to production on his first feature film at Warner Brothers, a very big deal. But there was a point where he had a lot of heat from a short film he did, and everybody wanted him, and he didn't make the right decisions at the right time. And shortly thereafter, literally, someone said, "Yeah, well, you had heat back then."
Yep.
This is literally months. Mm-hmm. You had heat back then. Now you don't have heat. And he's like, what happened? What, you've delayed. He delayed just a little too much. You were just trying to get the money together to get out there. So you weren't really delaying in any fashion. You were like seizing the opportunity. It just took time to get there.
Yeah. And when I got there, they were all about this other short film of cardboard cutouts of kids that swear a lot, which became South Park. And they didn't even let me in the building, like nothing. So I was like, I just spent all this money to fly out here for nothing. And I was there for a night. And my friend who had written to me, who was working in the mailroom, he said, I'm sorry, man. Like, I thought they would have wanted to talk to you. They said they did, whatever. Is there anything you want to see? You're only here for a night. And I'm like, well, I'm never coming back here. So I want to see the Sunset Strip. I want to go to the Rainbow. I want to see the Whiskey. I just want to see all these heavy metal places. And he said, all right, well, I'm not going there, but I'll drop you off. And he dropped me off in the corner of Larrabee by the Whiskey. And I'm like denouncing Hollywood at this point. I'm so devastated. And I look up, and on Tower Records, there's a sign that says, tonight at 7, Get Twisted with Dee Snider signing copies of Strangeland. And I was like, it's a message from God. Like, holy shit, he's here. And so there's already a line, and he's coming back to pick me up in 30 minutes, and I have to leave. And I'm like, I can't miss this. And I'm begging somebody to let me cut in the front of the line, and they're all being dicks. And finally, somebody gave me back cuts. That was how I got in towards the front.
Back cuts you could get behind him?
Yes, which is a bullshit move to do. But
yeah, because you're cutting somebody else.
Exactly. It's like, well, you're not cutting me, but you can cut the guy behind me. And I was trying everything. I'm sick. I'm doing like whatever I could say. And then I got in, and I still couldn't meet you because the way Tower Records was doing it is you had to buy the movie, and it was on DVD.
So DVD players at the time weren't even popular. Like, people didn't have DVD players.
No, I didn't have one. It would be another 2 years before I got a DVD player.
I was outsourcing DVDs, and most people didn't have DVD players in '98.
But I couldn't get up to you unless I bought it. I had to spread it out over multiple credit cards because I couldn't afford it. Like, that's how broke I was. So I had to put, it was like $11 on this card and $6 on the other one or something like that. And so then I got up to you and I said, my name's Adam Green. And you looked at me and you took your sunglasses off and you remembered me, because the first thing you said is, what are you doing out here? And I was like, holy shit, he remembers who I am. This is crazy. And I'm like, I made this short film, and I went and met with Uda, and they were dicks, and Jason and Michael Myers are gay, and and then you just said, well, so now what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. Nobody met with me. It was all a big waste. And you said, I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to go back to Boston. You're going to make something else, and you're going to go tell Uda to go fuck themselves. I guess you didn't know they were called UTA either. And and so
I don't know Udo. I don't know whoever this Uda guy is. He's a fucking asshole.
But I was like, that's right. And I get home, and Will Barrett,
it was very much like Belushi charging out in Animal House. Yeah. Let's do it! And this single individual guy went running out of the Virgin Record store.
And right back to Boston, and I said, all right, Will Barrett, my DP of 20 years, he's the one who started Aeroscope with me. I said, all right, we're going to make a feature. And he said, what is that? I said, it's like what we did, but longer. And I'm going to write it, I'll direct it, I'll star in it, I'll score it, I'll edit it, I'll do everything. How much money do we have? We had $400. And we made a feature in 1998 for $400. And I don't care what other story you know of or whatever, nobody has ever done that. And nowadays you can do it. But back then, I mean, and we shot a feature on Beta SP. We had to edit tape to tape, which means once you made a cut, that was it. You could never change it again.
All right, I just want to back up and say the pep talk in the original letter, the pep talk that I gave him in the store that day, it's kind of what I do. You know,
I do the same thing now.
And good.
Yeah.
You know, nobody ever gave me that pep talk. I was a one-man pep talking myself. And it's really lonely when you're struggling trying to achieve something and you're just running into brick walls. And I didn't have family members or even friends or anybody that said, you can do it, man. You can do it. Keep going. But I kept cheering myself on. So when I have the opportunity, I didn't know exactly your level of talent. I just saw passion in your eyes, and that's the bottom line. And you were being discouraged by some faceless Uda, and your dreams were being fucking shattered. And so that my job is to, as the big brother, is to say, fuck that, get going, show these motherfuckers what you can do. And you just took that energy and you ran with it.
Yeah. And halfway through filming that movie, my boss caught me, because what I would do is when everyone would leave at 5 o'clock, I'd empty the place out, and I would go film all night long. That's when the not sleeping started.
Oh, by the way, so he's doing the commercials for the cable station and borrowing, and we're doing quotation marks for people just listening, not seeing this, quotation marks. He borrowed the equipment, which he returned the next day.
Yes. And, at a certain point, though, he figured it out. And to be fair, I did tell him, I asked like once or twice, would it be okay if I took the camera home this weekend? I just wanted to. And then he started to realize what I was really doing right under his nose. I had that whole company working for me. They were answering like their outgoing voicemails where you've reached Aeroscope Pictures casting. You've done it was terrible what I did. And he should have fired me, but he didn't because he was an awesome dude. And he, Peter Willett was his name. And he busted me about halfway through. I came in at I was like 15 minutes too late returning the equipment because I'd been awake forever. And he said, "How long has this been going on?" And I said, just last night. He didn't buy it. And he said, "Look, if you do it again, I have no choice. I have to fire you, if not prosecute you." And that was the end. And Time Warner Cable, there was a place called Great Woods in Mansfield, Massachusetts. It's now called, I don't know, whatever the fuck center, like whatever brand it is now. But that's where all the concerts were. And Time Warner Cable had a box seats that they would give to clients who were spending a lot of money on their ads. And whenever it was a band that nobody else would want, I got the tickets. So Slayer, Megadeth, whatever, nobody else would want them, so I'd get the tickets.
80s metal bands.
One time, my boss walked through and he said, "Anybody interested in seeing Queensrÿche?" I'm like, "I'll take those." Queensrÿche. And that night, it was Poison and LA Guns and Great White, I think. And I don't really remember, but I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go." And this was the night that I got busted, and I am bummed. And as I'm walking past around where the backstage entrance is, there's kids, and they're all yelling D D D, and I'm thinking, what? And there you are, because you were hosting, because House of Hair had, I think, just started.
Yeah, pretty recent. We started in 96, 7.
Yeah, so that's when this was.
Yeah.
And it was 97, summer of 97. And I see you, and I waved once again. You remember, you weren't really sure where, but you knew me somehow. And you let me come over the barricade so I could actually talk. You said, "How's your movie coming?" And I said what happened, and I got caught, and that's it. I have half a movie shot, and it's over. And you said, "Do you want to make cable ads for the rest of your life?" I said, "No." He said, "So you're going to keep stealing that equipment. You're going to tell your boss to go fuck himself.
Sound advice.
And you're going to finish what you started." And so I did. And then Coffee and Donuts wins Best Picture in a film festival. Now, I didn't know what I was doing back then. I just looked to see what.
So that was the name of the film you did.
Coffee and Donuts,
okay.
Yes. And I thought, I didn't know about Sundance or what a real festival is. I just saw the next one coming up was the Smoky Mountain Film Festival, which doesn't even exist anymore. So I submitted to that.
It's actually a barbecue thing now. So
I don't even know if it ever was a real festival, but we won Best Picture. And now all of a sudden UTA wants to sign me.
Yeah, suddenly you've got some kind of heat again.
Yes.
Because they're kind of, I don't think they don't care which festivals you win, but winning festival shows.
You just need somebody else to say they liked your stuff.
Yeah, these agents fucking don't know.
Yes. My band in high school, when our tape came out in senior year, first of all, the marketing, the tape was going to come out on May 3rd, 1993. And so I hung up just posters everywhere on the school that said May 3rd, 1993 with blood dripping off of it, which in a post-Columbine world you cannot do anymore. But the album was called Blood. And nobody knew what it was. They just kept seeing the date with blood. And then eventually I switched it over to say the new album from Vigilante, and that album sucked. But people were kind of laughing about it. "Oh, your band." So the day it came out, we spent all of our money, me and the other guys in the band, printing up these professional cassettes. And it's right before homeroom. It's the day that our album's coming out. And I said, "Give me all your tapes, put them in my locker, and walk around with an empty box." And they were like, What are you doing?" I'm like, "Trust me on this." So sure enough, people were like, how's your tape doing? Well, we sold out before homeroom. What? Yeah, they're gone. How do I get one? You can't. I mean, you can, if you want to pay now, you could get on a wait list. Yeah, every fucking kid in that school bought that tape, all because they thought everyone else had bought it. And that's how I learned how this works. It doesn't, the shit that does well, it's not because it's good, it's because it was marketed correctly and you think other people liked it. So that's what, everyone is fucking sheep. So that was.
Absolutely. Taking note, people. Take note.
Yes. And look, at a certain point, the jig is going to be up. If you can't back it up, you can't just convince people that other people liked your shit forever. But with that one instance, it worked. Point is, I
So
moved
now
out
UTA is interested again
because someone else liked it.
Right.
So I moved out here, and everyone said Coffee Notes is going to become a sitcom, and we sold it to UPN. There was a merger right when I turned it in. UPN and the WB became the CW. They held my rights.
I've had a
for
few
5
projects
years.
killed by mergers.
Yeah,
It was wonderful.
Holliston.
Yeah.
And in that time, I wrote. It was called Victor Crowley at the time. I was the DJ at the Rainbow. I was eating the trash out of literally food out of the trash at the end of the night, or I'd have the waitresses bring me anything that looked like it hadn't been bitten into, and I would take that food home, and that was how.
But now you're back in LA.
Yes, I'm living here.
Place you said you'd never come back to again.
Yes, and I wrote Victor Crowley, changed the name to Hatchet. UTA hated it. Nobody wanted to make it, and we raised the money independently. It's a whole nother story. But point is, eventually, we did make this movie and finish it. And I showed it to UTA. They said it was terrible. Then it got into Tribeca, and then they're like,
Tribeca Film Festival, one of the biggest festivals, premiering at Tribeca.
yes. And now UTA is like, we might have a franchise here. And I'm like, I'm leaving and going to Endeavor. Fuck you. And anyway. So the night of the premiere is about to happen.
Wait a minute, back it up. So this is in the email, this long email, which gives me all this information of our history together and the times we met and the times that I've cheered him on and the inspiration I gave him from the time he was 8 years old. It was an amazing story. And then he said that, in your letter you wrote me, you said one day we'll be on the red carpet together and, at a big movie premiere. And I just wanted to let you know it happened and thank you. And it was just, unassuming.
Yeah.
And he left his phone number. And
that's the important thing to point out here. I never asked you for anything. I never wanted you to help me. I never asked you to do something for me. Because everyone likes to use, my fans now, you're my D. Snyder, because this story is well known. You're my D. Snyder. Can you help me maybe finance my movie? Can you help me do that? And it's like, wait, you didn't understand the story, dude. Like the story.
About inspiration, not.
And the serendipitous running into each other thing.
Yeah.
Like,
right when you're at your low points, you run into me. And now I'm going to get to this in a second. I just want to tell you.
This is the best part.
One part. I'm meeting Adam, and I'm these occasions, and I am one of his heroes, and I'm this superstar, rock star, whatever.
Wait, I know the part you're going to tell right before you get to this.
Yeah.
So D shows up to the premiere. I'm watching every
No, but wait a minute. Back it up more. I finish reading the email, and I pick up a phone, and I call them.
Yes.
And I say, "Where's the party?" And he's like, D? I said, yeah. I told you one day, and you're having a movie premiere at Tribeca, and we're going to hang out together. So this is the prophecy. It's come true. Where's the party? So me and my family went to the premiere of Hatchet at Tribeca.
He walked me down the carpet. Because, no one gave a fuck who I was.
First time we met, I pulled up, and it was the red car right up to the red carpet, and Adam's standing on the red carpet, and I get out of the car.
And now everyone was interested in talking to me. And as we're walking down the carpet, VH1 is there, MTV's there, and you made the whole thing about me. Because no one knew who I was, and they're running over D, and you're like, this is Adam, this is his night, this is his movie. Otherwise, none of that would have happened. And we get inside, and I had already planned before I even knew you were coming that was the story I was going to tell. Because whenever you see a premiere, there's all these names that are thanked and stuff, and not that isn't important, but the audience, they don't care, they don't know who these people are. Just get on with it. So I'm like, instead of doing that, I'm going to tell a story. and I told a very short version of this.
And I had no idea that he was going to tell this story.
No, and I finished with, so what you're seeing tonight isn't just a slasher movie. You're seeing an 8-year-old kid with nothing but a Twisted Sister tape make all of his dreams come true. And the place, people are bawling, crying, and it's big standing ovation. And then they sit back down, and I said, and you'll never guess who showed up tonight. And you stand up. And the place goes fucking nuts. And
yeah, it was pretty.
That
awesome.
was Hatchet's introduction to the world. And then, of course, everyone passed on it, and it was a whole nother struggle again. But fuck them, it's a franchise now. Point is, the next day we went out for lunch, and that's when you told me what I think you're about to say.
Well, I'll tell you is that, so here I am cheering Adam on, and at times where he needed lifting up. Coincidentally, these are the darkest years of my life career-wise. Coincidentally, Twisted Sister's over. I had lost, not lost, as Bob Goldthwait said, I didn't lose my money. I know where it is. Somebody else is using it. As a paraphrase, Bob Goldthwait that is losing a job. But I had bottomed out, and I was struggling trying to get a radio career going, trying to get a film career going, trying to get a new band going. Everything was coming apart at the seams. And as this kid's coming up to me, looking at me for not for help, physical help, for inspiration, I'm giving him this pep talk, but basically I'm giving myself a pep talk because I needed to hear those same words. I needed to remind myself, that's right, get back up, fuck these people, you can show it, get out there, do it again. So I keep running into him with my new radio show, with my new movie coming out, with my new band coming out. And look, when he saw me in the reflection, it was like, oh my God, Dee Snider's walking by. I was driving the van on the Widowmaker tour. And he was in the front. There was hardly anybody else in the club that night to see me and my band Widowmaker. I was walking around, I was going, whatever. It was like to him, he was like, oh my God.
I could only see the rock star. I could only see my idol. I physically couldn't see that the club wasn't sold out.
And I remembered him because he was the only one there waiting on the line. He was trying to get there to be the first person in the place. There was nobody else fighting. This is at a low point in my career. So coincidentally, as I'm cheering him on, in a way, it's just reminding myself, cheering him on, I'm cheering myself back on, saying, that's right. Yeah, hear what you're saying, preaching. You're preaching here, you're teaching here. Live these words. Keep fighting, keep fighting, keep fighting. I came back. Hatchet's done how many movies now? Four Hatchet movies. You've done so many other films, and Adam is an indie filmmaker. Aeriescope is an indie film company. He has his own movies, and he's beloved in the community. Certainly, he was hoping for the Saw franchise or the Hostel franchise or any of the horror movie franchises out there.
It just would have been nice to have marketing. Once, I've done it all myself, but I mean, I do studio assignments and stuff. That's how I'm able to survive because you can't off the independent stuff alone. So I've always been selling TV pilots or doing studio writing assignments and stuff. Right now, God willing, because we're right across the street from the place. There's another TV series that if it could all be different in a couple months, financially speaking or whatever. But the only thing I care about now is doing that third season of Holliston. I have for a million different reasons, but that was always the goal, was that show. And then we had it, and yeah, it was on the smallest possible network with the smallest budget. I've never been happier in my life than making that show. And the people who love it, as you've seen firsthand, it means
every convention I go to, there is a percentage of my line that are Holliston fans.
Yeah,
and of course, season
it.
three.
And it makes no sense because it's so fucking cheap to make. And now we own the first 2 seasons. So you cannot lose if you invest in this thing. You can't lose. And this is a whole other topic we won't get into, but one of the things that I've been able to do because of my situation was now I tour just like a band. When I have a new movie, I go city to city, and and I can sell out any theater in America almost, like without promotion, without any money or anybody behind me. Like that's how strong and passionate the fan base is now. The last night of the Victor Crowley tour, there were people who flew there. It was in New Orleans from Norway, Canada, London, just for a movie. You know, they like that's how much this stuff means to them. And so with Holliston, the fact that we did. You did a couple of them with us when we would do like the live script readings.
Yeah.
No one had ever done that at a convention before.
Well, I mean, just to show you, case in point, I attended. I guess it's a couple of years ago. You can correct that part, but I attended a screening of Hatchet 3. Wasn't it? It was supposed to be some special screening. Where you deceived the fans.
Oh, and no, it was okay, wait. Yeah, for the 10th anniversary of Hatchet.
Yeah.
We were going to do a retro screening at the ArcLight in Hollywood, but I had really...
Of the first one.
But I really made a new one and no one knew.
Right. But so here's the little scary movie that could, and the theater is packed. It's packed with Hatchet fans, packed with Hatchet contributors, actors. Everybody came just to see a rescreening of the first one, honoring the 10-year anniversary of this franchise. And Adam somehow kept it a secret. Somehow, he's like Beyonce and Jay-Z of horror, the Beyonce and Jay-Z of horror. Kept it a complete secret and surprised the audience, this rabid Hatchet audience and fan base, with a new film. Was it Victor Crowley? The fourth one, yeah. And the place went nuts. I mean, but that's the passion of this audience. But you are proving, and you told me you had that moment where you were feeling frustrated, and I may be paraphrasing, just by the difficulties you have in your career getting things going. Sometimes it seems, why is it so hard to get these things made? Why Holliston is as obvious as the nose on any of our faces. The passion the audience has. It's an inexpensive show. Why can't it find a home for the third season? You're frustrated, and you said you were sitting in your office and you're looking around at all the movie posters of all the work you've done, all the things you've achieved, physical puppets and physical things from different movies and it hit you like, holy shit, I am doing it.
Well,
I am living my dream. I'm doing what I want to do. Maybe not exactly the way you want, man.
Yeah, I think sometimes you have to lose a bunch to see what you have, and I think it happens to all of us, but. In 2014, in the span of 13 days, I lost my marriage, one of my best friends, and my TV show, where Dave Brocky from Guar, Odorous Urungus, who was our co-star on the show and one of my closer friends, he suddenly passed away of what wound up being a drug overdose, and the last thing it could have been was drugs. And I'm quoted up and down in the press when it happened, and they're like, oh, obviously it was drugs. And I'm like, there's no fucking way it was. You don't know him. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, well, I got to know him a little bit from the show, and clear-headed. I wouldn't have thought that in a minute.
No, and I still, part of me wants to think that that's not what it was, but, anyway. And then a few days later, my wife leaves me. And then a week or 2 weeks after that, FearNet gets dissolved in a merger between Comcast and Time Warner. And so all of it went away, everything that I cared about in seemingly overnight. And I just plummeted. And I'd like to think if it had just been one of those things, I would have handled it better. And I've never been into drinking or drugs or any of that stuff, but my thing for some reason was starving myself, and I don't know why. And I would try to eat. Seth Green, he was one of the only ones who knew what was happening because I didn't tell anybody about the divorce.
Great guy, by the way.
Yeah,
Seth,
which was really the one thing I did right, because it's different when you're in the public eye because now everybody feels like they're involved with it too. And you're going through something really hard and really personal. And so what I did is I delayed saying anything for like almost, 6 months. So that way when I did, it was old news. I could just say on the podcast, yep, I got divorced. It was last year. nothing to see here, sucked, but oh well. And people went, wait, I didn't know that. And that was it, done. Nobody weighed in. But Seth knew because my ex-wife was living off of them for a little while. And he would come by and bring Legos and food or a couple other friends who might have known. They would bring something to eat and they would try to not leave until they saw me eat it. But as soon as they'd go, I would just throw it up. I couldn't eat anything. And I was down to like less than 140 pounds at a certain point. Like, I mean, I weigh like 175 right now. That's my normal weight. And I was emaciated, and I had covered up the mirrors in my house with towels or tinfoil. And the whole time you're doing this, this isn't good. This isn't right. But I know that, so it's okay. If I can recognize this is not good. This is just what I need to do right now. And months are going by. And in the middle of all of this, I get a call from a friend who said, I'm making a movie. Steven Tyler is in it. Would you be willing to just go sit with him at his house and coach him a little bit? Because I think he'll feel more comfortable working with a director that's not me, because the guy was friendly with him. And that's the only thing that could have got me out of the house at that point. Huge Aerosmith fan. My cat's named Steven Tyler. And so I left the house and I went. And it was this just great moment, giving him ideas for the character, and I'm, working. And then he stopped halfway and he said, I'm sorry, I forgot to say congratulations. And, he doesn't know me. We're not friends. He didn't know what was going on. But I said, for congratulations for what? And he said, your movies, your studio, all the stuff you've done. Has anyone ever said congratulations? And I'm sure somebody had, but not
Steven Tyler.
Not Steven Tyler.
Not someone with gravitas, as they say.
Yes. And he said that's the thing. He's been, as artists, it's always about what could have been better, what's next, how it can improve, or what wasn't good enough. And he's like, but we as artists have to sit down and look each other in the eyes every now and then and say, hey, congratulations on what you've done. Because it's important to do that. And for him, it was Robert Plant calling him, saying, you know what, Steven, congratulations on 40 years of music. And that's when it felt like he had accomplished something. And that really turned it around, because I think the next time I went into the office, instead of seeing failure everywhere, because all these things made lots of money, but never for me.
Right.
And I would just be like, what did I do so wrong? Am I stupid? And the same thing happened to Wes Craven, same thing happened to George Romero, so all of them. Like we all get fucked. So that's really when it started to turn around. And the where I'm very lucky, it might sound like this fairy tale thing of getting to meet your idols at just the right time or whatever it was, but I'm very lucky at the people that I chose to look up to. Thank God it was you. What if it had been, and I don't want to say another name because I don't want to seem like I'm being down on somebody else, but very few people would have gone out of their way just to talk to me for a few minutes like you did. And that, what if my idol, I guess he never would have been an idol, but would have been one of the dudes from Motley Crue or whatever. What if that had been my favorite band or whatever? And I guess they wouldn't have been, because of the reasons why I sparked to Twisted Sister. And I think my mother said that to you when she first met you. Like, you lived up to every self-imposed expectation I could put on you, and then some. It's almost unfair, the amount of expectation I put on you. You could do no wrong. You were and what if I had met you?
A lot of pressure.
Right, but what if I met you and you'd just been like, yeah, what do you want? You want an autograph? Okay, yeah, I get lost. I mean, you do the conventions. You see how some of these other people
meeting
treat
heroes
their fans.
can be disappointing.
I'm fucking appalled by how people treat their fans at those conventions sometimes. Like, you asshole, you are so lucky. This dude just stood in a line for 3 hours to meet you. You can't look him in the fucking eyes when you shake his hand?
I won't name names, but my first convention was with a couple of rock stars who wouldn't even look at their fans in the eye, wouldn't shake their hand, wouldn't acknowledge their presence. And I just looked at them and said, yeah, I'm not doing that.
No.
I'm not doing that. No. I can't do that. There's these people waiting online just to say hi to you.
And they made you.
Yeah, exactly.
Without them, you don't get to do what you do. So.
Oh, look, we're going to have a part 2 and part 3 on this conversation because I wanted to get to.
I talk like I email and text.
No, but that's a conversation, and I wanted to get. I do want to get to just the idea that, in the world we're dealing with now, it's not black and white anymore. It's not like you put out a record, it sells 1 million copies, and you get a huge check. And now, and I'm going to be talking to Chris Motionless from Motionless in White, who is in a very successful contemporary metal band, and just about the world that. Because people always say, how do I do it? And I go, I don't know how you do it, but there are bands out there who have figured out there is a way to survive, and it's not black and white like it once was. Nope. Like I said, where you just get the big checks. You get a little here, a little there. You do 1 million different things. I don't want to oversimplify. This is a conversation because there's a lot of aspiring filmmakers, but it also applies to other, avenues, other jobs. There are a lot of ways to live your dream.
In the past 3 months, I put out my first novel. Came out, which actually today when we're recording this, the Kindle version just came out. 2 comic books, a feature-length documentary, this year's Halloween short film. I'm writing a pilot for Universal for a new TV show, and Victor Crowley was continuing to come out. London, UK, Japan, or Germany, I think. All of that just in 90 days, and that's to survive. So if you think I'll just make one thing. I'll make an independent movie and I'll be able to live. You're wrong.
It's a very different world, and we'll talk more about that. Give them all the statistics, like what's your website, Twitter handle, Instagram, all that shit.
Ariescope.com is the website. Everything is there. All the short films. It's all free. Everything. Scary Sleepover. It's all free. ARIESCOPE.com. And then on Twitter, I'm at Adam_effin, like fucking _green. And same thing with Instagram. And the podcast is The Movie Crypt, which anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can listen to The Movie Crypt. Dee's been a guest, / Bobcat, Chris Columbus, John Landis.
You get everybody, especially, in the horror and rock community, and / is a big horror fan. That's really the connection there.
Yeah, it's a great show. You'll love it.
So we will talk again. Adam Green, Dee Snider, I want to talk. I'll see you next time.